Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mindfully Aligned, a space where we are all navigating life while staying in touch with the best version of ourselves. I'm your host, Amari Benjamin, and I'm pleased to welcome our very first guest, my brother, Amari Benjamin.
Hello, thanks for having me.
All right, awesome. I'm happy to have you here, Amari. So first, let's kick off by talking a little bit about yourself. Amari is turning 20 actually tomorrow, and that means it's the perfect time for him to come onto this podcast for 20-somethings. But even though you're only 20, your mind is a lot older. I'd say you're more of an old soul. Would you agree?
Yeah, I've actually gotten that from a lot of people. Lots of people, before me actually telling them my age, they think I'm a lot older than I actually am. So I'm currently an amateur boxer. I've been competing for a little over a year and a half now. I didn't go to college. Well, I went to community college, but I dropped out because it wasn't for me. And, I have a lot of my own personal goals that I want to accomplish. And I felt that, going the traditional route of college just wasn't the right way to get what I wanted to get done.
Right. And that's exactly what this podcast is about. It doesn't matter where you're going or where you feel your goals are supposed to be at. It's just understanding what that path is to get there, no matter who's telling you where you should go. It's just understanding what you personally need to do to get there. And so boxing is a field where you need to get your whole mentality right. And of course, that means you had to make a decision to set yourself apart from others in order to do that. And not only that, but also your decision of leaving school. It meant that you had to sit down with yourself and break apart from the traditional path that society set out for you. So how did you what was your thought process of going through that and making that decision to go off on your own?
Well, that's a really interesting question because, growing up, our parents raised us to be, college. That's everything. That's what you have to do. So when I told them that, originally I wanted to pursue MMA before boxing, I told them that I wanted to be an MMA fighter, and they were kind of, I wouldn't say disappointed, but they were like, why? Why would you do that when you could just go to college? The chances of becoming a professional fighter and making it are slim, right? Statistically speaking. But statistically speaking, I know who I am, and I'm the type of person who would make it. Mm-hmm. So if you look at everyone who tries, only 1% of them actually succeed, but I'm that 1%.
Yes.
So this is how I saw myself, and this is the standard that I hold myself to when going about life and making the decisions that I make. I've always, from when I was a little kid, I always thought I was special. I always knew I was, and I always knew I was going to be successful. So, and I liked certain things as a kid. I liked playing with Legos. I thought I wanted to be an engineer. Once I found out how much an engineer makes, I was like, I don't want to do that. Just 6 figures, that's not enough for me. You know what I mean? I always held myself to this higher standard. So I found fighting. I fell in love with it. This was after wrestling too. So I learned a lot about grit and hard work during wrestling season. And then I fell in love with fighting. And then from there, just this dream of becoming a professional fighter just built itself.
Mm-hmm. So I would say that for you, what underscores your whole story is self-esteem and being sure of yourself. How can you speak more towards that or advise someone who wants to go off on their own, but they don't really have that within themselves first?
It depends on what your goals are. For me, I knew what I wanted to do. Everyone has different goals. Some people don't want to be rich. Some people don't want to be famous. Some people want to do certain things. But it's about doing what you want to do and doing what you know you should do and not listening to what everyone else wants you to do. Because your path for yourself won't align with your parents' path for you.
That's a big one.
So, I heard this thing, this quote, in order for your dream to succeed, your dream for yourself to succeed, your parents' dream for you has to die. That's just how it is. It's not your own pursuits and your own passions aren't going to line up with everything else around you. And it's not going to be easy as well. It's not going to be cut and dry because it's not made.
It's not made for everyone. If it was easy, it would be for everyone. Exactly. And I think that's also a big part of why we are the way that we are, is having immigrant parents. And I know a lot of listeners can understand what it's like to have immigrant parents or just parents who have a lot of expectations for them. And growing up, I know I felt this way, and as the older child, There were so many dreams I had to fulfill and so much pressure that you didn't even understand from a young age. And it can be nerve-wracking feeling like you're defying that. So maybe could you get into a little more of how that felt for you, shaking off your parents' dreams?
Yeah, at the end of the day, you can't take it too personal because you know that your parents only want you to do certain things because they want you to be successful. They don't want you to go to school so that you can go to school. They want you to go to school so that you can be successful. So as long as I keep this promise of doing what I do and sticking to it and being dedicated and pushing myself past my limits, then I will be successful. And then at the end of the day, no matter how I get there, my parents will be proud of me.
Yes, exactly. It's just telling other people to like, listen, I know what I'm doing. Trust me, it's my life. And this is the path I know I need to take. And I know you can clap for me at the end. So, like, that's
Exactly.
kind of what it is.
Because that's all they want as parents,
Yeah. And I guess it's just kind of understanding that, especially as a younger person in your 20s, when your parents still have their hands on your future. It's kind of something you need to grapple with, is allowing them to take their hands off and also giving them grace. Like, listen, I know that your expectations are only because you love me, and I see that and I appreciate that. And even though it's not in the way you imagined, I still am going to make you proud. And that's kind of how you can come to a truce with that.
Exactly.
And so off of parents, how do you think you navigated being different from your peers as well? Because peer pressure is a very real thing at this age.
Mm-hmm.
There is this example of what being a young person is supposed to be like. You're supposed to, you drink, you party, you this and that. And those are all things that you don't do. And just in general, people your age are in college, people your age are dating around, doing all these other things. But that doesn't align with your life. So can you speak to just being different from your peers?
Yeah, so for starters, I'm very selective of who I associate with. So, everyone's familiar with the term, you're the sum of the 5 people you hang around with the most, right?
In different words, but yes.
Yeah, but it's absolutely true, Like,
Yes.
whatever you surround yourself with is who you become, right? So, that being said, my friends aren't perfect. They do what they do. But the things we talk about, the things we focus on, generally, we're all motivated in the same direction. And we all have a drive and a purpose. Now, as for, things that people do generally, partying, that was never, it's okay. Like, I've done it a couple times, But for me, it's like, then what? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yesterday, I was hanging with my friends, and it got real late, and I was thinking to myself, like, yeah, we're all laughing, having a good time. Like, I was thinking about this as we were hanging out and joking, but I was like, I don't have $100 million in my bank account yet. Like, that's what I care about most, and it was bothering me. So, like, we're all cracking jokes, and I'm laughing, and then I stopped laughing for a second. I'm, like, just thinking to myself, like, why are you happy? You're not done.
It's
You're
time
not
to get
done working.
serious. Yeah.
Like, really, like, I do think about this a lot. Like, I'm not done working. So for me, I can't celebrate until I've done what I was set to do.
Right. I think that's true. I would say, though, it's all about balance, too. If you are just keeping your head down, toiling and toiling all day, you can kind of get lost in the sauce. You can kind of get miserable. But also on the other side of the spectrum, you also don't want to get lost in having too much fun that you forget your goals. So I would say it's about a lot of balance. And if your friends, like you said, are aligned with your dreams and your maturity and your mindset, that really it can take you miles and miles ahead, so that when you do have fun, it's with people who still get the main vision.
Exactly. Like yesterday, before me and my friends went out real late, we were all working on this project together that we've been doing for a long time. So we were all sitting down with our laptops, collaborating on this project. And so we hang out together, but we also work together. So we make sure we get that done as well.
And so speaking of friends, this is another thing. Sometimes not everyone is exactly aligned with you and your goals. Just if you're someone who knows exactly what they're looking for in life and knows exactly what they're going after, there are going to be times where you're going after it alone. And I've been through that. Everyone who wants something in life is going to experience that. So how do you manage the loneliness that can come with being different and trying to achieve something different?
Yeah, I'm actually so glad you mentioned this, because as much as I I enjoy my friends' presence now. I did have a period of isolation without them. So there was like a small amount of time, maybe like 6 months I went without talking to my friends because I felt they just weren't as hungry as I was, because some of them, they started working at a restaurant, they started making some good money, for their age. We all live with our parents, but it was good money for their age. And they became like an alligator with a full belly,
Stagnant.
Yeah, stagnant, exactly.
Yes.
If I got a good, they all had their girlfriends too. Like, they didn't need anything. They didn't need an upgrade. So they kind of...
An upgrade in life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they kind of plateaued. So I was, I still had this hungry mentality, and I just didn't know, I had to kind of isolate myself because they weren't on the same frequency that I was on.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't take it personally. Like, I still love them as my friends, but I just knew I couldn't be hanging out with them as much because they wanted to do other things. They didn't want to focus on what I was focusing on. And, so I had to keep telling myself this, like, I can still be friends with them, even if I don't spend my time with them as much. Like, and it's just not personal. You just can't take things personally.
Yeah, and I've been through that too, where, in college, because you guys are living at home, so it's kind of a different setting to where I'm at school in college, and the life is kind of all consuming, especially being in Greek life. There's parties that everyone's expected to be at. There's social things everyone's expected to be at. There's so many social expectations, and sometimes that just doesn't align with me. And so I've also had to isolate. I've also had to see people less. And in those moments, I have to remind myself, like, I'm just trying to go to where I'm going. And sometimes you can try to bring people along with you, and sometimes it doesn't work. And so one thing I know I did was I figured, okay, I know where I'm going. I know what I'm doing. I can try to bring people up to my frequency and we can share habits. But if they're not ready for it, they're not ready for it. And I'm not going to push anyone. I'm not going to be pushing anyone to go to the gym with me at 7 a.m. I'm not going to be pushing anyone to stay in and work on stuff with me on a Friday night. I just told my friends, listen, this is what I'm doing. If you want to join me, let's do it together. And if you don't, I'm not holding it against you. I'm not going to let them bring me back, but we can move forward together. But I'm not going to force anything.
Yeah, the same way. Always welcome them with open arms if they're ready to make the change. But yeah, of course.
So how did you make that shift, Amari, from the isolation to, you were hanging out with your friends last night? So how did you make that shift?
Yeah, it's real interesting because nothing really changed for most of them. Like, I could take my friend Ryan, for example, right? He also wanted to be a fighter the same way I wanted to. However, multiple circumstances, he doesn't want to be a fighter anymore, right? He and I used to train together pretty often in my house, but he decided he doesn't want to be a fighter anymore. So now he's in a spot where, he's in college. His parents made him go to college, and he doesn't really know what he wants to do to get rich, basically, right? Because we all have this dream of being extremely abundant. So for him, it used to be fighting, but now he doesn't know what he wants to do. And he understands that, he could go the traditional route that he's already going and, just keep studying, get his degree, go to Rutgers, blah, blah, blah. But he'll just be living, a basic life, but he doesn't want that. So he and I have been brainstorming for, different ideas that we can work on, like different side hustles, all that stuff. So that's what kind of brought him back to my side of, okay, let's find something now so that we can work hard and then just fill our pockets, right? So that was for him, right? He didn't want to fight anymore, so he figured he needs to find something else. We are a friend group, so once there's two of us doing something, it's like,
everyone gets involved. Yeah. And I love that too. That's exactly to the point that I was mentioning. Like, it's okay if you don't know, if you're not on the same vibe as I am. But if you decide one day you want to go to the gym at 7 a.m., I'm going to be there with you.
Exactly.
If you want to go grocery shopping every week so we can meal prep together, I'm going to be there with you. It's just staying firm in who you are. And when they're ready, that's when you guys can do that together and the friendship flourishes even further. So Amari and I have talked about going against the grain, going off alone, being different from the dream your parents had for you, being different from what everyone else your age is doing. And now, before we close out, as a reminder, Amari's birthday is tomorrow and mine is 2 days after his. So before we close out, we're going to get into what we are looking forward to shifting in our lives as this next year approaches. So Amari, what are you looking forward to shifting as you turn 20?
Good question. Generally, I don't like to mark things off at a certain date. I like to be continuously improving. But I guess something recently that I've been looking at in myself is to just go harder, smarter. In the sense that, I've already taught myself hard work. I've already taught myself grit. It's about, finding where to put the hard work and then, finding the chink in the armor. Like, you have to think of life as war, right? Any opportunity you have, you find the chink in the armor and then you go hard and fast at it. So that's where I am right now.
I like that. So for me, I would say it's about the power of energy. That's what I'm bringing into my 22nd year of life. Recently, going through a breakup, I learned that you can give your energy, all of your energy, to something as much as you want to, but if it's not the right expenditure, it will leave you feeling exhausted and empty, and it's just a waste of time. So when you pour your energy into the right things, it is so much more fruitful for your life. And this past month, I've been doing that, and I'm looking forward to taking that mantra with me into my 22nd year of life. So, Amari, thank you so much for joining me. Do you have any last thoughts before we part ways?
No, that's pretty much it.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to have you join me, and I'm so happy to share all your words of wisdom with the world. So thank you for joining me on Mindfully Aligned. Thank you. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and tune in on our next episode.